And welcome to GameSack. Once again, it's time to take a look at some games that were only ever released in North America, despite being made, in most cases, elsewhere. And that's crazy. So, what are some of these games that we were so lucky to get here in North America? Well, let's take a look. And if you live outside of North America, man, you are missing out. Or are you? Let's start off with Tin Head on the Genesis, which was released in 1993 by Ballistic only on the Genesis. Oddly, this was developed in the UK by Microprose only for us North Americans. And this is quite obvious when you start playing the game, as it is definitely a European action platformer. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Well, not much anyway. So, for whatever reason, some fiendish guy is stealing stars with his spaceship, because that's a thing you can do. And he's scattering them out all over the place because, I don't know. You're Tin Head, and it's up to you to save the universe. You platform through tons of levels collecting different things, but you're mainly on the lookout for one of these bigger stars. Once you grab that, you're allowed to exit the level. There are other things that you can grab, like these little black pellet things. Mainly they just add to your score, but once you collect several of them, you can fire your weapon faster. Speaking of your weapon, you have a rapid fire shot. You can cycle through different firing directions by pressing the A button. You won't need to do this very much in the first world, but it's very helpful as you progress in the game. Being a 2D platformer, you can obviously jump. But be careful, because the rapid fire is also turned on for your jump button. The jumping is also kind of weird. You don't jump in a normal arc like other video games. I mean, who wants that? Instead, your jump starts normally and then you just suddenly stop moving forward and fall straight down. It can take quite a bit of time to get used to, and it actually makes some jumps seem harder than they are. You also have an energy meter, which is represented by the number next to the battery icon. Touching anything bad reduces the number by 1. If the number reaches 0 and you touch something, well then you die and everyone you love forgets that you ever even existed. If you collect a battery icon, it will add 1 to your life number. If you collect a lightning bolt, it gives you all your life back, which is a maximum of 5. The stages are pretty large, and honestly, there isn't much variety. You keep going through zone after zone, and while they're laid out differently, they all look the same. In fact, there are only 4 different worlds. This game really lays the lack of variety on pretty thick, and honestly, the layout and design aren't as well thought out as they could be. Eventually, you'll get to a boss, and these can be pretty fun to fight. Some of them, though, like the level 2 boss here, can be absurdly easy. The regular game itself can be pretty tough in the upper levels unless you take it slow, which you really need to do. I like the graphics for the most part. In the first world, they look great. The space levels are kind of boring though, because it's just nothingness. However, the sprites all look good throughout. The music isn't bad at all, and some of the tracks can be slightly long for a 16-bit era release. Unfortunately, it can get repetitive as you need to play through so many versions of the same level just to get to the next world. Supposedly, this was also being made for the Amiga, Jaguar, and the Super Nintendo, but they'd never see a release. Well, except for the Super Nintendo version here, which was released by Pico Interactive in 2019. You can buy it online at their website for approximately $45 plus shipping for a limited time only. Act now, hurry, hurry, hurry! That wasn't an ad, I'm just letting you know. Overall, this game makes me so happy I was born in America, as my life wouldn't be worth anything if I didn't have this game. Of course I'm kidding, but it's a slightly above average action platformer for the time, which I found at a garage sale maybe 15 years ago. You probably already have way worse games in your collection. I know I do. Next up is Arkista's Ring from Sammy, released on the NES in 1990. I remember the magazine ad for this one because teenage me thought the protagonist looked kinda hot. I mean, I was a teenager, come on. Anyway, this is an overhead action game where you control a green-haired girl whose mission in life is to find the exit. You wander around the screen and fire projectiles which kill your enemies. Once you kill enough of them, a key will appear which you need to grab. Do that and you can go through the locked gates and get to the exit. The control takes a bit of getting used to. You can fire in 4 directions and of course often need to change where you're facing to murder an enemy. However, you can't change directions without moving a tile's length in said direction. Because of this, it can seem kind of slow since you can't just tap a direction and start firing that way. But the game works well enough once you become acquainted with this exciting feature. As you shoot down enemies, they drop bags. Often these will contain an item that you'll store away in your inventory. By pressing start, you gain access to these items. They can do things like refill your life, kill all the enemies on screen, or give you a fireball that's super powerful and lets you shoot through walls. There's also an item which stuns ninjas so you can hack away at them while they're down. The ninjas get super tough in this game and they are definitely the most difficult enemies. Sometimes the exit is hard to find. And by hard, I mean not as obvious as you think. But it's no big deal, just keep touching all of the exits and you'll get to it sooner than later. Some stages block you off and you have to touch certain objects and they disappear, like these trees. These are fairly obvious because they look slightly different than the other trees. But in some levels, the items that disappear look the same. Again, they try to trick you, but we're way too smart to fall for that, right? There aren't boss fights per se, but there are occasional enemies that take a ton of arrows to defeat and they waste no time shooting back almost as much at you. The graphics are mostly average and certainly not unpleasant. What I really like though is how basically each level throws a different looking screen at you. Yeah, the screen styles repeat, but rarely back to back like, say, Tin Head. This is much appreciated and helps keep me from getting bored. The music is pretty good, but certainly not outstanding. Again, it's not tremendously repetitive since they switch it around a lot. But don't let all that fool you, this game is repetitive. You have 31 stages that loop 4 times before you beat the game. Each stage lasts maybe a minute. That doesn't mean it isn't fun, but man, 4 times? Really? I think 3 times would be enough for me, actually twice would be about perfect. Still, I'm quite surprised that this Japanese programmed game never saw a release outside of North America. It's a good thing, I suppose, since I finally have an excuse to talk about it. And I'm done. Hi! You guys like my really cool Dreamcast shirt? I think it's pretty cool. I especially like how you can barely see the word Dreamcast. You can see the swirl just fine, but not the word Dreamcast. That's because it faded the very first time I put it in the wash. Nice, huh? Yeah, they gave me a refund, but damn it if I wasn't going to use it for an episode anyway. Speaking of Dreamcast, what is one game series that when you think of it, you think, wow, that must have had a Japanese release because all of the other games did and it's made in Japan? That's right, Bomberman. Check it out. This is Bomberman Online from Hudson Soft for the Sega Dreamcast. Right off the bat, I should probably let you know that I'm not the world's biggest fan of Bomberman. So if you are, please take everything I say here with a grain of salt. This is mainly because I get bored and zone out while playing it, which in turn makes me suck pretty hard at the game. Yeah, I admit it, I suck at Bomberman. I'm not ashamed though, nor should I be. What's interesting is that this version tries to do a few new things with the formula. It all takes place in a battle mode, so that means you need to win 2 out of 3 matches to proceed. That's easier said than done because the AI in this game is extremely good. They will almost always move out of the way of your bombs with ease, even on the very first level. You can select the style of game you want to play on the map. The first plays like normal Bomberman, except of course you needing to win 2 out of 3 matches. The second type is much more zoomed in and personal, taking place in a smaller area. You can see where the bombs will blast and they each have a countdown before they go off. You'll need to hit your opponent several times before you even win 1 match. This next one I actually really like and thought it was a great idea. You have up to 4 players with different colored bombs. Each time your bomb goes off, it changes the color of the tiles on the floor. The goal is to change the floor so that the highest percentage of it is your color when the time's up. If you get hit by a bomb and die, no big deal, you just start right back up, but all of your tiles go away and you need to start recoloring the floor all over. This would be fun to play with a few friends, but only if those friends sucked at Bomberman as much as I do. Otherwise, it wouldn't be very fun. The last game style that I encountered is this weird one where you drop the bombs and they slide to the other side. I hated this at first because I didn't know what was going on, but then it grew on me. You need to strategically place your bombs on your side so they slide over into a position where they can hit an enemy. It's very tough, but I still had lots of fun with this one even though I never won a match. I don't even think I ever hit an enemy, but it's still fun. Obviously, the selling point to this one is the online battle mode, which used to exist. It doesn't recognize my broadband adapter, so dial up only. Overall, the visuals look sharp and colorful, however, I'm not a big fan of the tilted playfield. It makes it hard to judge how close you are to a bomb blast as you're walking around, and it cost me quite a few lives. I think a direct overhead view would be much better. The sound and music are both fine and fit the game. I'm amazed that this one didn't get a release outside of North America, as people genuinely seem to enjoy Bomberman. Or maybe not, maybe that's why this one stayed here, I don't know. Here's Kickmaster for the NES from Untitled, which was released in 1991. This is a side-scrolling action platformer where your main attacks are kicks. Who would have guessed? Anyway, some evil things have happened and the king and queen are dead and the princess has been kidnapped. Then your brother or good friend or someone like that dies as you both set off to rescue the princess. All that doesn't matter because this game is not about the story, it's about kicking things. And kick things you can. You can kick them left and you can kick them right. You can also kick straight up and down if you attack while jumping. At first it feels like your attacks aren't that great and everything seems kind of stiff, and also like you don't have very much reach. Well, did you notice that each time you destroy an enemy, 3 things fly out of them? Yeah, you want to collect as much of that as you can. Most of it is experience. Get enough of this and you'll raise your level. When you do this, you'll automatically gain new moves, and as a result the game feels more responsive. Well, mostly. I'll come back to that. Another thing that can fly out of enemies when they die are vials, which fill up your magic points. Magic? Why yes, you can collect things in the stage or at the end of the level, which are magic abilities. Sometimes these are even hidden in secret passages that you need to find, if you want. Pressing start accesses the magic screen and allows you to select from the ones you've found. It also shows you the number of points for each use. A lot of these are attack magics, but some, like this one, can refill part of your life. Other things to collect are hearts, which will restore some of your life, as well as the occasional 1-up. You usually can't grab everything that the enemy spits out when they die, so you'll have to pick and choose. But don't get too greedy because there's a skull icon which will damage you. These things flash on and off at 60 frames per second, so if it looks weird or if you don't see them in this video, try watching at 60 frames per second. The game can be pretty tough as you progress. If you level up and then die before you reach a checkpoint, it will set you back along with your level reduced. That means you need to level up again. Other than this, I love the leveling feature. There are lots of mid-bosses in some stages, and sometimes they count as a checkpoint and other times not. Oh, remember how I said that the controls became more responsive with the higher powered moves you get when leveling up? Well, yes, but your attacks also become longer, which means you have to wait for the animation to complete. Still though, it's fun, if a bit frustrating. The graphics are excellent. Taito really pumped out some good-looking stuff towards the end of the NES's life. Good sounding too. This game features a lot of deep drums. I wish the Sega Master System could do drums like these, but no. This game does seem a little bit inspired by Castlevania though. You've got a cool map screen with the dude walking. You've got bats and grim reapers inside creepy caves. Hell, I thought this stage sounds like it wants to be Castlevania. Just listen to the music. All in all, this is a pretty competently made game that's full of challenge. I do feel that it takes a bit too long to become interesting though. You should have a couple of more moves at the start. I guess they didn't care about the Famicom anymore in Japan, and they never cared much about the NES in Europe. Because, once again, this is another game made in Japan that only we got on this continent. Well, I'll take it. Do you like tank games? Well, we sure as hell do here in North America. In fact, I've got not one, not 3, but 2 tank games coming up that didn't see a worldwide release that are actually really cool. That was stupid, the not 1, not 3, but 2 thing. Let's just get to the games. Alien Front Online is another online Dreamcast game that only got a North American release. This must mean that only North America has the internet. This is based on the arcade game simply called Alien Front, and you can still play that here. Basically, you play as either the Earth Army or the aliens. Your mission is to destroy a certain amount of them before they destroy a certain amount of you. This takes place via teams. In the online mode, it's basically the same. It could be played by up to 8 players with 4 on each side. This one came with a microphone that let you talk to other online players, but I can't even imagine how good or bad this worked because it doesn't work with a broadband adapter. Very few games did, sadly. So imagine trying to cram multiple voices plus game data over a dial-up connection. I'm sure it was wonderful. Anyway, if you blow up enough of the enemy, you complete the stage and move on to the next. Unfortunately, there are only 3 different areas to battle in, and you just keep looping through them. It's cool, but it does get old kind of fast. This would definitely be more fun to play online than in single-player mode though. I just wish there were more stages. However, there is a tactical mode which does offer a bit more substance. Here, you need to accomplish objectives as either the army or the aliens to unlock more areas and missions. These can be mundane, like running over a ton of captured humans within the allotted time, or shooting down targets that are scattered about, again, in a limited amount of time. Sometimes you'll have to fight the enemy, but you'll have other things to worry about while doing it, like keeping your turrets alive while at the same time not dying more than twice until the time runs out. These missions can be a bit tedious sometimes, but they do add some depth to the single-player mode. Graphically, the game is very good, especially for its time. Everything moves at 60 frames per second. Watch, let's count them. 60. You see, 60. Most of the environments are destructible, which is awesome. You can dial the graphics quality down if you hate good graphics though. I mean, good graphics do kind of suck. But I believe this only affects the multiplayer modes. The music is pretty darn good with lots of rockin' tunes, but everything is really loud, especially the sound effects. What's more is that the sound effects don't take long to get on your nerves. You can turn the music up, which is already pretty loud, but you can't turn the sound effects down. This is unfortunate because the game's sound is already on the verge of clipping at any given time. I've noticed that a lot of Dreamcast and GameCube games are super loud like this for whatever reason. I guess dynamic range headroom was not something that was considered important. Once again, it's mind-boggling that this didn't get at least a Japanese release since it's a port of an arcade game. I'm not sure why it didn't show up in Europe. Oh well, if you have a broadband adapter, there is a hack to play it online. I don't know if it works with a standard modem. Still, check it out if you're equipped. Finally, this is Battle Tanks for the Nintendo 64 from 3DO, the company, not the console. The story in this one is pretty crazy. So, a virus comes out of nowhere which only affects human women. So, in an effort to keep women alive, they're all gathered up and taken away to California to be in quarantine. Society doesn't like this at all, so civil war breaks out and everyone and their mom has a tank. Well, everyone and their dad, since the women are all quarantined. Now, the virus is finally gone, but there are so few women left compared to men. So, tribes have formed, and women rule these tribes as queen lords. You play as a dude who's just trying to go across the country and rescue his fiancée, who is now a queen lord herself somewhere. Like I said, pretty crazy. Gameplay-wise, it's kind of similar to Alien Front Online in some spots. You control a tank and your mission is to destroy a predetermined number of enemy tanks. That's not all that you do though, oh no. Some stages will have you going from point A to point B, trying to get to the other side of a tunnel or a bridge alive. Other stages will have you rescuing queen lords in different buildings. It's actually pretty fun.
Queen Lord rescued.
Obviously, you can move around and fire, but there's lots of stuff to collect. A radar will show you where the enemy is and also other things, and it's extremely helpful. You definitely want that. There are also lots of weapons you can get which are fired with the secondary weapon button. These can be pretty powerful. There are even Red Cross style boxes which heal your tank, very similar to Alien Front Online. However, these can be stored as an item and used by selecting them and pressing the secondary fire button, so you can heal at will. This is very useful, especially if you have a lot of these collected. This game gets pretty chaotic, and I love that. I think this might even be more fun than Alien Front. In fact, I know it is. The controls are responsive and offer quite a few different ways to set them up. The gameplay is challenging, but you can always try again if you fail your mission. The graphics are fairly average for the system. I do like that much of the environment is destructible and that everything happening is just nuts. However, there is a bit too much black smoke and it can make things really hard to see. Also, the frame rate is pretty low and sometimes inconsistent. This started to make me feel a bit motion sick after about 45 minutes and I had to take a break. Sound-wise, it's good with tons of explosions, though I recommend turning the sound effects down to match the music volume level. To be honest, I was surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did, and having my expectations exceeded is always a good experience. While this was only released in North America, the sequel did see a release in Europe. Still, it all started right here and it's definitely worth a look.
Fortress under attack.
And there you go, more games that were never released outside of North America. I did my best to find some games that were good, or at least fairly decent, and for the most part I think I did pretty well. There were a lot of games that I actually recorded and considered including in this episode that were not good at all. Here are some examples. Games like Beetlejuice on the NES. This was made by Rare, the very same people who are world famous for Wheel of Fortune Jr. Edition on this same system. Can you believe that this company would make a game this bad? Well, they did, and thankfully they learned from it and went on to make Donkey Kong Country, which is an actual good game series. Or Frantic Flea on the Super Nintendo. In this one, you're running around collecting little fleas, and it works in a way similar to Flicky, I guess, except that there's nowhere to take them, and if you touch anything at all of your fleas go away. God, I hate this game. The music is pretty good though. Or how about Dirty Harry on the NES? This one's the worst. It's so cryptic with some of the worst controls in any video game. It gets better once you learn where everything is and get used to the controls, but it's really not worth wasting your life doing that. So you see, this episode could have been much, much worse. Well, I mean, it's a GameSack episode, how good can it really be? Anyway, what are some other games that were only ever released in North America that might also actually be good? Let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack. What should I play? Out of This World on the Super Nintendo, or its pseudo-sequel, Flashback, on the Sega CD? Well, I should probably start with the original game, and plus, the CD has loading times. I mean, no wonder the Sega CD failed. It has loading times. CDs are so stupid. Let's play Out of This World. I love cartridges. Anytime now. Shouldn't be long. Alright, it's coming soon, definitely. I feel it. Feel it in my bones. Alright, anytime now.